Welcome to this explainer. Picture this for a second. You step out of your front door into a city where autonomous robotaxis navigate flawlessly through rush hour traffic, or where massive gigawatt solar farms are thrown up in a matter of weeks, powering entire smart grids seamlessly. Sounds like pure science fiction, right? Well, for a few select nations right now, it's just reality. You know, every generation has a handful of countries that seem to arrive in the future way before everyone else. They build the infrastructure first, they adopt new tech faster, and they attract the absolute best minds, engineers, researchers, entrepreneurs from all over the planet. While the rest of the world is busy debating what might happen next, these countries are already out there building it. Today, we're diving into a brand new global race for technological leadership. It's a totally fascinating landscape, and we're going to break down exactly who is leading the pack, how their different strategies actually work, and why paying attention to this race is absolutely crucial for understanding your own future. Okay, let's dive into this and look at our flight itinerary for today. We'll start with Part 1, the new tech race, then Part 2, the Titans, America and China. For Part 3, we'll look at the indispensable tech specialists. Part 4 covers the rapidly rising hubs, and finally, Part 5, the interconnected future.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the new tech race and the foundations of future economic power. To truly answer this question, we actually need to completely reframe how we think about global competition. Past empires and superpowers were built on physical stuff. Actually, scratch that. They were built on brute force and raw resources like steel, coal, shipping lanes, and oil. But today's most critical geopolitical race has absolutely nothing to do with territory or traditional manufacturing. It is entirely about the technological foundations of tomorrow's economy. The next global powerhouses are going to be built on silicon and algorithms. So which countries are building the future first? And maybe more importantly, what exactly are they doing differently than the rest of the world to lock in their spot? Understanding this massive shift helps explain everything from the crazy stock market fluctuations in your retirement account to the exact types of jobs that are going to be available a decade from now.
To see how this is all playing out, we have to look at the specific arenas of competition. Think of these industries as the literal anatomy of a brand new global economy. Artificial intelligence? That's the brain, processing insane amounts of information and making decisions. Semiconductors are the vital neurons firing underneath, transmitting all that data. Robotics and advanced manufacturing act as the physical muscles doing the heavy lifting in the real world. And clean energy is the metabolism, keeping the entire system running. We are talking about unbelievably massive stakes here. Just look at quantum computing alone. Governments and private companies are pouring tens of billions of dollars into machines that will eventually solve problems in minutes that would literally take our current supercomputers thousands of years to figure out. The countries that lead these specific sectors aren't just creating cool new consumer gadgets. They are fundamentally writing the rules and shaping the entire architecture of the future global economy.
Moving right along to Section 2, Titans, America and China. We're looking at two very distinct strategies for technological leadership.
We're going to impartially examine two very different but incredibly powerful philosophies for building that future. These two nations are undeniably the defining tech powers of the 21st century, but let me tell you, their playbooks could not be more different. Let's start with the United States, which remains the most influential tech ecosystem in the world. For over a century, America has reinvented itself through private sector innovation, and today, it is the undisputed center of artificial intelligence. We're seeing companies pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into AI infrastructure right now. But the real secret sauce here is the American innovation loop. Imagine a brilliant engineering student at Stanford or MIT. They make a breakthrough, they walk out of the lab, and boom, they are immediately backed by venture capitalists on Sand Hill Road with incredibly deep pockets. That startup scales rapidly, creates massive wealth, and then that wealth flows right back into the universities and venture funds. It is this totally unique, self-sustaining ecosystem of deep capital, academia, and intense entrepreneurial culture. So when you see a $10 billion investment in an AI startup, you are watching this exact loop functioning in real time.
And this brilliantly illustrates our second model. In stark contrast to America's venture-backed ecosystem, we have China's approach. Rather than relying mostly on a decentralized private sector, China combines long-term state planning, centralized industrial policy, and a sheer manufacturing scale that is honestly hard to wrap your head around. To put this industrial scale into perspective for a second, China is producing millions of STEM graduates every single year. When Beijing decides to prioritize a specific industry, the entire national apparatus shifts to make it happen. Take electric vehicles, for example. China didn't just casually decide to build cars. They built the entire supply chain from the ground up. And today, they control roughly 70% of the global electric vehicle battery market. That is staggering, and we're seeing that exact same incredible speed being applied to renewable energy, AI, and advanced telecommunications. We're witnessing two totally different models here, one driven by private capital, one driven by state coordination, but both are yielding immense, world-changing technological power.
Okay, on to Section 3, the indispensable tech specialists. These are the true pillars of the global supply chain. While massive scale gets all the flashy headlines, it certainly isn't everything. Stepping away from the sprawling sizes of the US and China, we find these ultra-specific specialists. And let's be real, without these highly focused nations, the tech titans literally cannot function. This is where the magic really happens behind the scenes. Let's start with Taiwan. Its geopolitical weight far exceeds its geographic size, almost entirely because of advanced semiconductors. A single company, TSMC, produces over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. If Taiwan just stopped producing tomorrow, the entire global AI revolution would screech to a halt. No joke. Then there's South Korea. Companies like Samsung and SK Hynix aren't just making your smartphones, they're providing the vital memory chip backbone for nearly every cloud data center on Earth. Next up, Japan. They might not dominate the trendy software headlines, but they have near monopolies in the highly specialized chemicals required to even print microchips in the first place. Plus, they produce the robotic joints used in automotive factories worldwide. Finally, Europe. Beyond Germany's famous advanced manufacturing, the Netherlands is home to ASML. They are the only company on the planet capable of producing extreme ultraviolet lithography machines. These are devices that literally print patterns on microchips at the atomic level. These machines are so incredibly complex that shipping just one single unit requires 3 Boeing 747s. So yeah, these specialists, they are absolutely indispensable.
Now for Section 4, the rapidly rising hubs. Let's take a look at the new centers of global influence.
Beyond the established powers we just talked about, there is a new generation of players aggressively reshaping their economies to compete on the global stage. Now, what's really interesting about this is India. When we look at emerging tech hubs, the sheer scale of India's 1.4 billion population instantly stands out. They are combining that massive demographic advantage with a rapidly expanding digital infrastructure. To give you an idea of how deeply integrated their tech is becoming, just look at India's Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. It is currently processing well over 10 billion digital transactions in a single month. 10 billion! They have a booming startup ecosystem and a global software industry that is already the backbone of countless multinational corporations. As they keep ramping up domestic manufacturing, India's influence is poised to expand dramatically.
Then you've got the Middle East pivot. For decades, global economic growth in the region was universally associated with one thing: energy exports and oil. But countries like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are strategically flipping the script. They are actively diversifying, and the scale of their ambition is honestly mind-blowing. Saudi Arabia is pouring tens of billions of dollars into building out AI infrastructure, and they are aiming to become the undisputed global capital of the esports and gaming industry. Meanwhile, the UAE has launched its own highly competitive open-source AI models like Falcon, pushing them right to the absolute forefront of global AI research. Their goal is crystal clear here. They are quite literally buying a front-row seat to the industries of the future. And of course, we can't talk about rising hubs without mentioning the Singapore model. Singapore has an incredibly tiny geographic footprint, yet it absolutely dominates as one of the world's most important financial and technology centers. How do they do it? Through highly strategic planning, incredibly strong institutions, advanced infrastructure, and really business-friendly policies. But why does this specific small island matter so much? Because in an increasingly fractured geopolitical world, Singapore serves as this indispensable neutral ground. It's the primary financial gateway between Western capital and Asian markets. They perfectly demonstrate how hyper-focused execution allows a nation to punch far, far above its geographic weight class.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the interconnected future. And really, this is about why no country can win alone. We've looked at national strategies and specific hubs, but the overarching lesson of this explainer is a critical reality check. No single country can win this race alone. The future isn't just built accidentally. It requires intense, long-term commitment spanning world-class education, highly reliable infrastructure, heavy research funding, and industrial capacity. But you know what the most crucial ingredient is? Patience. Just as the smartphone wasn't built in a day, the AI-driven smart cities and clean energy grids of tomorrow require a decade of quiet, frankly boring infrastructure investments before the real magic actually happens. Technological leadership rarely appears overnight. It is a slow, steady compounding of knowledge. Let's move to this next piece and see how it all builds together. Because this absolute need for massive, long-term commitment is exactly why the physical supply chain is so deeply fragmented across borders.
Just trace the incredible journey of a single cutting-edge AI chip today. It might be designed by brilliant software architects in California. Then that design is sent all the way across the Pacific to be manufactured in a multi-billion-dollar fabrication plant in Taiwan, using those specialized chemicals we talked about from Japan and lithography machines from the Netherlands. Once it's finally printed, it might be shipped to Mexico to be assembled into a server rack. And finally, it gets deployed globally, maybe sitting in a data center in London, training the next generation of artificial intelligence. Every single breakthrough we enjoy today depends entirely on this deeply interconnected international ecosystem. The nations leading this race know that while the competition is fierce, cooperation is functionally essential.
The next decade may very well be remembered as one of the most important periods of technological development in modern human history. These nations aren't just trying to build faster microchips or slightly better software. They are laying the physical and digital foundations for future prosperity. And history, well, it heavily favors those who embrace change early. Tracking this global race isn't just for economists or politicians anymore. It matters deeply for your career choices, for your investment portfolio, and honestly, just for understanding the daily news. So, which nations will turn today's investments into tomorrow's breakthroughs? Because the future isn't arriving everywhere at the exact same speed. If you found this explainer helpful, be sure to subscribe for more insights into the forces shaping our world. Catch you next time.